Ever had a gun pointed at your chest before your morning coffee? Because that's how my week started. A Montana sunrise, the air so clear you could taste the snow coming, and 4 men in fake uniforms barking orders on my own land. Drop the tools and get on your knees. The leader's voice cracked through the calm, his hands shaking as he leveled his weapon at me. Their tactical gear said HOA enforcement. Their eyes said amateur hour. I knew right then these guys had no idea who they were messing with. Let me rewind. Because nobody just wakes up in a standoff unless something's already gone sideways. 2 days before I was repairing the fence on what used to be my grandma's ranch, a patch of Montana no one but the coyotes cared about. 8 years in the Navy, 3 deployments, a drawer full of ribbons that meant more to recruiters than to me, and now here I was, up to my knees in frost, fighting off dry rot and nostalgia. Maplewood, Montana. 400 souls, all allergic to small talk and proud of it. Which is exactly why I moved here. Folks kept their heads down, didn't poke at your scars, didn't ask why you always checked the exits in a diner. I'd barely gotten the last post dug when my phone buzzed unknown local number. That's trouble every time. Mr. Thompson, this is Linda Hayes from the Maplewood Ranch Community Association. That name alone set my teeth on edge. She sounded like every politician I ever met overseas, sweet on the surface, but you just know there's poison underneath. We'd love to welcome you to the community, she chirped. I'll stop by at 3. Now, my nearest neighbor lives 2 miles through pines and moose country. Community is generous. But at 3 o'clock sharp, a white sedan rolled up dust, trailing behind like a bad omen. Linda herself stepped out, boardroom hair, navy blazer shoes worth more than my truck. She sized up my place like she was buying it at auction. Beautiful property. Very rustic. Here's our handbook, just a few rules to keep our neighborhood looking its best. I thumbed through this binder. Paint colors, lawn heights, mailbox shades. Legalese so thick you'd need a machete to cut through. We believe a community is only as strong as its weakest link. She smiled, teeth sharp as bear traps. She noticed my security cameras. Our patrol service is quite thorough, she added, eyes flicking to the barn, the fence, the gate. It wasn't neighborly curiosity, it was recon. That night I found a tracking device taped inside her handbook. I ground it into the dirt under my boot, heart thumping with that old familiar Kandahar paranoia. The next morning, a man in a pressed uniform showed up with an envelope. No eye contact, no words, just a snap of my front door, and gone. Inside, 3 pages of violations and drone photos, so high-res they could count the flies on a horse's tail. Grass too high, mailbox too far from the road fence, the wrong shade. First offense, $3,000 fine. I called their office. You'll have to come to Billings. In person. By 5 Huzro. That's a 2-hour drive each way. Late fees accrue at $50 a day. This was extortion dressed up in property values in fine print. Out my kitchen window, I watched a white pickup idle down the county road, 2 guys inside, binoculars flashing. I called the number on the letterhead again. Those your patrols out there? Linda's voice dropped, the sweet act just cold now. We're just ensuring compliance. Then, almost like a warning, veterans sometimes struggle with civilian authority structures. I trust that won't be an issue. That night, a sheriff's deputy called Coleman Gravel, voice the kind of guy who's seen every scam in the book. You had some visitors tonight. He'd heard about the fake violations, the threats. You strike me as someone who won't fold easy, Thompson. But be careful. Folks like that, when you don't pay things, escalate property damage, break-ins worse. He wasn't wrong. 2 days later, they showed up again, this time in force. 4 men, tactical vests, HOA enforcement stitched where their names should be. Stevens, the leader, had the stance of an ex-soldier and a chip on his shoulder. Williams, his partner, looked jittery. Never trust a guy with shaky hands near a trigger. 2 more hung back eyes scanning for trouble. They fanned out, textbook pincer move, thinking I'd just play along. You're under arrest for violation of community safety ordinances, Stevens barked, waving a pair of cuffs. Failure to comply with lawful directives. I kept my cool. Show me your warrant. That's when the guns came out. Time slowed the way it always does, right before it all goes bad. Training kicked in. I ducked behind my tractor as Williams fired bullets thudding harmlessly into steel. I moved fast, years of muscle memory, not thinking, just doing. I disarmed Stevens in a blur, his weapon skittering across the dirt. Williams hesitated, finger twitching, so I barked, "Drop it, Tony." He did. The other 2 started for their guns, but when they saw how quickly things had turned, they thought better of it. I zip-tied the 2 in front of me, found a burner phone, A script with Thompson compliance procedure and a camera with our whole encounter on video. Who hired you, I asked. Williams cracked first. Some lady on Craigslist paid cash. Said you were an easy mark. Nobody said you were military. Linda Hayes, her name again. I called Deputy Coleman. 20 minutes later, sirens up the drive. He took one look at the situation, fake cops, fake credentials, real guns, and just shook his head. How'd you do it? He asked. Carefully, I told him. Turns out Linda wasn't Linda. Her real name, Rebecca Harrison. Big-time developer married to a city councilman, used shell companies and scare tactics to snatch up land on the cheap. The HOA, completely fake, incorporated with phony paperwork run out of a P.O. box. They'd pulled the same stunt in 5 counties, targeting ranchers, veterans, anyone who wouldn't put up a fight. She called me one last time, voice like ice. This could all go away, Mr. Thompson, if you're reasonable. I told her the only place we'd meet was in court. That should have been the end, but Rebecca played for keeps. Taxes, permits, utilities. She had political connections to make life hell. But she made one mistake. She underestimated just how stubborn a veteran could be. Sheriff Coleman brought in the feds. FBI surveillance, wiretaps, the works. We set a trap. Rebecca wanted to sit down at a diner halfway to Billings, me, and unbeknownst to her, 6 federal agents waiting in a van. She tried one last pitch, $400,000 for your land. Cash. Walk away. I let her talk, let her confess every threat, every bribe, every fake document while the FBI recorded it all. When she realized what was happening, it was too late. Feds swarmed her SUV, arrested her security, and cuffed Rebecca right there in front of the whole diner. That's how you take down a corruption ring in rural Montana. Not with threats or firepower, but with stubbornness, patience, and a healthy dose of hell no. Rebecca went away for 15 years. Her husband, city councilman, commissioners, all dragged into the mess, all did time. Ranchers got their land back, veterans got help. Even the press showed up, but I left the interviews to Coleman. 6 months later, I got a settlement check enough to buy another ranch. I donated it to veterans organizations. Kept the porch, the coffee, the peace. Now and then a neighbor would drop by, someone who'd almost lost everything, grateful for a second chance. Sometimes the phone rings with another case, another bully trying their luck. The lesson, peace isn't given. It's earned, guarded, sometimes fought for. And when folks with money and power think they can bully anyone, there's always a line, a fence they can't cross. Because sometimes justice looks a lot like a stubborn old rancher who just wants to finish his fence in peace. What would you have done in my place? Where's the line between standing up for yourself and escalating a fight? Drop your thoughts below, share your stories, because in the end, we're all neighbors in this wild, wide country. And sometimes all it takes to set things right is one person who refuses to be intimidated.